Good evening, guys. Welcome to the Shades End. Well, it's a really sad kind of a situation to hear Frank Lampard has been sacked. But the truth is that it was waiting to happen, whether you like it or not. It is tough at this moment to make a video and say so many things because a lot of thoughts are up there in the mind, and you're like, look at it from a different perspective, from different point of views. Chelsea, if you've been following Chelsea Football Club like I have been following almost 25 years, you know for a fact that even before Roman, we were not a club which loved mediocrity. If you remember Ken Bates, and I remember it in the late 90s when I started watching Chelsea, and I'm being a big fan of Chelsea from there since, he never used to give much opportunity to the managers then. You remember Ruth Gullit, Gianluca Vialli, they also got sacked within a little over 2 years each as managers at Chelsea. Ranieri was appointed by Bates, but he was sacked by Roman, obviously, to bring on Mourinho. But that was also a little over 2 years, maybe 3 years. Don't quite remember. I think a little over 3 years. So at Chelsea, it's not a Roman thing that managers have been coming and going. If you look at all big clubs, which you look at a PSG, which you look at a Real Madrid, which you look at a Barcelona, all big clubs, Milan, they have the same thing going. So it's not just the Chelsea board is at fault. If you have been following Chelsea for quite some time, you know this is waiting to happen. We are a ruthless club. We need trophies. We win big trophies. And if we don't win big trophies, we cannot end up being like Arsenal, where, we can let it go. I mean, if Arsenal was Chelsea, they wouldn't have allowed Arsene Wenger to stay there for that long, just finishing top four, but not winning titles. And this is the truth. I mean, Chelsea can finish top four, but if you don't win a big title, the manager, whoever that is, will get sacked. And we know for right now, Thomas Tuchel, 4.5-year contract, though I feel that's a little too much. 4.5 years at Chelsea, no manager stays at Chelsea for 4.5 years. Maybe Tuchel will be there for 2 years, maybe 2.5 years max. That will be max. I don't see Tuchel staying, or anybody staying at Chelsea for that long. 2 years, 3 years. That's the maximum expectancy at Chelsea for a manager. It is tough to see what all happened, but we know it was coming. Frank Lampard's sacking was coming. When we lost to Man City, I tweeted saying that, not Man City match, I tweeted last week saying that we were expecting Frank Lampard to get the sack, and maybe the final work, the paperwork, or the contract talks with the new manager. At that time last week, we didn't know who was it going to be. Could have been Tuchel, could have been somebody else. That we didn't really know. I really didn't know, but I knew that something was happening at the back, and that's how has Chelsea worked over the last 15 years. I tweeted last week saying that maybe the final paperwork is being done right now. Maybe the final talks have been done. Yesterday rather, there was a news that Tuchel's representatives had their concrete talks with the Chelsea board. So this was just after the Luton match, and we knew what was going to happen, I guess. But when you expected, because this was happening for the last 3 weeks or so, we knew that the last 3-4 weeks, the Chelsea ownership has already made up their mind that we are not going to go anywhere with this form. With this way, we can't even finish in the top four. Top four is a minimum necessity for a big club like Chelsea. At the end of the day, it's a business. This is a football business. If you, any one of us was spending money, investing money at something, we will look at a return on investment. Now, Roman Abramovich has spent billions for Chelsea for the last 15, 16 years. And to a certain extent, we have been so successful because of that. And now, suddenly, if you want him to not think about himself and think that we have an opportunity of missing out top four. We have an opportunity of not winning against Atletico. Now, I'm not saying that just because Tuchel has come in, we are going to beat Atletico. We might not. But the way we were playing as Lampard, we would have never been able to beat Atletico. It wouldn't have happened. We knew that. So he had to make a call. It was just justified. If you look at footballing sense, it was justified. We wouldn't have gone anywhere at this moment. We could all be a little poetic about the fact that Frank being the greatest Chelsea player of all time. But as a player, nobody is doubting Frank Lampard. But as a manager, Jose Mourinho was the most successful Chelsea manager, and he was sacked twice. So from that perspective, you have to understand the game. That if Jose Mourinho, the most successful Chelsea manager, was sacked twice, as a manager, Frank Lampard was to get a sack here. He is leaving along with Jody Morris, and I feel that obviously Jody, as much I liked him when he just came in as a player 20 years ago, at this moment, we need somebody who can really bring a little more tactics into the game. There's some really good players in the team. You know, when you spend 80 million and buy a player like Havertz and he's not even getting a match, you will question the manager. No matter what you think, in terms of as a fan. And some people might just talk about Mount, because Mount's the captain, Mount's in this. And I also like Mount, and I hope Mount becomes a great player like Frankie. But to tell you the truth, if you think about it, you spend a lot of money and buying a brand new expensive car, and you're not even driving it, people are going to question you why you're not driving your new brand expensive car. So you are answerable out there. Werner playing out of position. A lot of things. I mean, you cannot just blame the board and not blame Frankie Lampard. As much I think of Frank Lampard as a player, as much I respect the guy, you have to understand we are in a footballing business and you have to show results. And it's just not in football, in real life as well. If you're working somewhere, if you're someone who's working, you need to give results in the place where you're working, to your manager, to your seniors. Otherwise, your job will be at stake. It's a simple rule. So anybody who thinks otherwise, I'm not sure what they mean. At this moment, it is tough to talk much more. I feel that Frank, at this moment at Chelsea, at the top club, you have to perform all the time. And it goes with Tuchel as well. He was jobless, so he would be okay with this job. But he also knows very well that he needs to get top four at least this season. Maybe we have a chance of now getting something out of the Atletico match. We have some really good players. Ziyech, Pulisic, Werner, Havertz, Kovacic, for example. I mean, there has been news that Kovacic and Rudiger went to the board. Kovacic might be a Real Madrid reject, but he's still a very good player. The fact you don't see these guys playing at all says a lot. And by the way, I just quite remember Tomori. I think Tomori was the final nail in the coffin for Frank. I think the Chelsea ownership, 2 days ago, I guess, there was a report from Milan where I think the Milan sporting director tweeted saying that they had to fight with the Chelsea board to get Tomori's buyback, Tomori's loan come buy clause for 26 million or something. And that the Chelsea board was furious because they didn't want to sell Tomori. But I guess that was one of the main reasons why Tomori, that situation led to Frank's sacking. Tomori and Mount came with Frank from Derby, and you see Tomori somewhere else with Milan, and obviously nobody at Chelsea would really want Tomori to be leaving Chelsea. But Frank was not playing him for whatever XYZ reason. Maybe Tomori was at fault, who knows. But that could have been one of the reasons why you see Frank Lampard is gone, because the Chelsea board was furious to let Tomori go. Now that he has gone, hopefully he might come back under Tuchel in the summer, who knows. But that could have been one of the could be the final nail in the coffin that the Roman or Chelsea board was very unhappy that happened. You know, you might see the likes of Alonso coming in, but you might see the likes of Chilwell, Mount still getting their position. It will still be a tough thing for Tuchel to come in and make a difference, because there are a lot of English boys who might think that, yeah, now Frank's not there, we are not going to play, kind of attitude. But you might see some players coming in. Tuchel is not that bad in terms of, getting results. He still does his thing bit. So we'll wait and watch. It is a different topic to talk about Tuchel. It's better to talk about Frank Lampard, the greatest Chelsea player. Hopefully in the future he will come back once again like Mourinho did and be a more experienced manager, can do something better. At this moment, this was the right thing to do. I will not be poetic like other guys in social media. At this moment, results were not going our way. So there was, obviously the change was expected. And we have to move on right now, hoping that Chelsea gets back to what we really were, a trophy-winning club. I sign off for now. There could be more things we can be talking about, but I sign off for now. See you guys. Wolves in 2 days. Bye, guys.